welcome to the Knittery. I'm Katie, and today we're back for another podcast episode. So excited to be here today, sharing some of my works in progress and finished objects. And so I think some new ones and a lot of projects that I talked about in my last episode. So to start, what I am wearing, this is the Stripe Hype sweater by Kutovakika. This is a project I made a year or two ago. And it was a great way to use scrap yarn that you had like almost a skein. I think you need, well, no, not even that much. It was a great project for scrap yarn, especially the sleeve colors. And so, definitely recommend this pattern. It's just a great drop shoulder stockinette pattern, but has some really nice details in it that I really enjoy. For one, all of the ribbing is that twisted rib, and then all of the edges, actually one of the edges, it doesn't say to do this little color at the end, but I did do it on the body as well. I think the body, it doesn't say to do it. And I think it's just like such a nice little detail, having those extra colors there. I knit mine in Knitting for Olive, a mix of Knitting for Olive Merino and Sunday by Sandnes Garn. And so it's kind of just what colors I had in different things. And so I think this cream color is Sunday. And then maybe on my Ravelry, I have all the colors listed of what they are. So if you're very interested, I think you can go find that information. If you see it on Ravelry, just comment and I'll put them in there. Otherwise, I think I could find all the colors that I used. I know that this is Dusty Honey by Knitting for Olive. So, yeah. So I wouldn't say I wear this one super often, just as it has a lot of colors. It's not always the right style for the setting that I'm going to, but I do like to throw it on, and it's really easy to style, and so I do enjoy it for the most part. So with that, let's get into some finished objects. First, I have my first test knit that I've ever done, the Shoreline sweater by Ozetta. So I talked about this last time, and I did say, I was like, it should be a finished object because the due date has passed since my in between the recordings there, and I am so happy with this. I knit this in Knitting for Olive, heavy merino in dark ochre, and then the merino in dark mustard, and it's the perfect fall gold. I want to wear this to an apple orchard, a pumpkin patch, something. Unfortunately, it hasn't been cold enough to feel like I can really throw this on. I took some finished object photos for the test knit, and just like put it on and then took it off. It actually got kind of cool here, and it was kind of fine, but it warmed up again, and so I haven't gotten much wear out of it, but cannot wait to throw it on and wear it. I just love the cabling and the subtlety of it. It's a great oversized fit. The saddle shoulder is beautiful. I talked about this in the last one, but I just love how it cascades down right from that cable. It does it on the front and the back, but I feel like you can really see it on the back. And then it was my first time ever doing this transition in between the collar, and I do feel like it looks really neat and nice. So, okay, I have a little end sticking out there, don't notice that. And so I'm very happy with that. I would do that again. I don't think I would add it into a pattern, but I would be happy to do it if a pattern called for it in the future. So, kind of does have that mock neck. I am a little worried about it holding up as far as not just like stretching out, because it is a little bit loose of a mock neck. And so it might be something that I add some elastic in, but also could be something just to be aware of when you're making it. Maybe pick up a few less stitches or something, especially if you know that you're a looser knitter, because I do feel like it could get a little stretched out. Hasn't yet. So excited to wear this. I will say it is definitely oversized, and especially the length, because this was a test knit. I did it exactly to the measurements and like what it called for, and it actually tells you like how many repeats to do and everything. The pattern was written so well. I love Ozetta patterns. You'll see I actually cast on another one, which I was planning on making before I did this test knit, but then I enjoyed making this one, so I cast it on right away. But I think if I had not been doing this for a test knit, I probably would have shortened it. And you'll see in the finished object photos, like it is oversized and long. And I actually am very glad that I just followed the pattern, because I always end up cutting things short and they fit. but I have such a hard time making something actually long, and so this was a great discipline in making something as long as it says. And so I'll definitely be cozy in this in the fall, and it will be nice to have an oversized garment. So definitely go check this one out. The pattern is out now, so you can knit this as well. I also finished my Eucalyptus Monday sweater. So this is the Monday sweater by Petite Knit. I call it my Eucalyptus Monday because that's the color I knitted in. These are knitting for olive yarns, the Merino and the soft silk Mohair. And I just had one sleeve I think to do last time, and I was able to do it really quickly and finish that sleeve up, and I am so happy with it. If you've been here before, you know I'm obsessed with the Monday pattern. Although I was talking to someone, I was like, how many modifications do you have to make where you're like not really knitting the pattern anymore? And so obviously I'm using all the Monday measurements. It's not like something where I'm designing a pattern, but like at what point is it really not truthful to say I love the Monday pattern? I don't think I've made too many here, and all the ones I've made are extremely subtle, but it is kind of funny. So I go into detail in all my other videos about everything that I've done here, and my Red Monday, which I posted on Instagram, and I think I maybe inspired a few people to make the Monday sweater, which I'm super happy about. And so I've talked a lot about them, so I'll just go into like anything here that's different. One, I did add in a little piece of scrap yarn just so I know what the back is. I find it very hard to distinguish the front and the back in this pattern, and so I just added that in. It's just a little detail that you could use if helpful. And then I made a size medium in this one. I have made the size small in the red, and I think my gray one is an extra small, but I'm actually unsure. And so this one also fits my husband, and so that we can both wear it. He's not that much larger than I am, so I did have to make this long as well, which is the main modification. But it definitely fits a little bit more oversized, and I really do like the fit of it. I think my next Monday I'll go back to a small. I think the small will be my standard that I make, but every now and then I might throw in a medium for an oversized fit. My continued gripe with this pattern is the collar and how much it stretches out. And it's probably why I'm fearful on the Shoreline sweater, because I know this one. My red one holds up really well, but it's a small, and I did add some rows on either side of the fold. I added rows on either side of the fold of this too, and it's still not even a very thick collar. So I wish that I had added more, to be honest. And then I talked about I do all the other ribbing on 3mm, and it calls for 3.5. But I've never done the collar on 3mm. And so the next Monday I make, I'll be doing 3mm for the collar as well, because when I do wear this one, it is a little bit looser than I prefer. If you like a boat neck or you like a wider neck, this probably isn't going to be an issue for you. But like, I just want this to be a crew neck sweater, and I don't like the way boat necks fit on me, and it's in between the two, and so I just have been trying to find ways to make it a little bit smaller. I also could probably do the math of decreasing the number of stitches in the collar, but then I would have to figure out where I increase them when you do the fold, so that you have the right amount of stitches when you start the raglans, unless I add them in later. Which on the red one, I did actually add a row of increases. I don't know why I did that, to be honest, but I did. And so I feel like there's a couple different options for what I could do there. So anyways, all in all, really happy. I actually have worn this a couple times. It's still been pretty warm here. It's been cool in the mornings and the evenings, and so this is just a great one to throw on like a sweatshirt in the morning, at night, and then take it off. And so I'm very happy with this, and have already gotten some good wear out of it. I love the knitting for olive combo, and so I think it holds up so well. I've probably worn this at least 3 times, and there's 0 pilling on this. So I guess I haven't worn it for a full day, probably more than once. So I don't know, but definitely make yourself a Monday when you want just a really nice stockinette project. It's all worked in the round, and so it's just incredible outside of the short rows. But that is all I have for finished objects. And so I'm going to pop over into my works in progress. And I'm going to start with my September sweater by Petite Knit. I'm knitting this in Double Sunday by Sandnes Garn with the Tilia Mohair. And I cannot believe how soft the combination is. Every time I touch it, I'm just like, this is the softest thing I've ever made. So I definitely recommend, sorry if I just hit the mic, guys. I definitely recommend this yarn combination as far as how it feels as a work in progress. Haven't blocked it yet, haven't worn it yet, so I don't know, take it with a grain of salt in this video. I actually realized this is my first time ever using Double Sunday. I was trying to go through and think if I've ever used it before, because I've used Sunday several times and I've used Knitting for Olive Heavy Merino a couple times, and I could not think of a project. I even like looked at my sweater shelf to be like, is one of you Double Sunday? So kind of just an interesting thing, and so I have no idea how it holds up, how it wears, how it blocks, and so that'll be some interesting things to learn. As far as the pattern goes, so this is a brioche knit, and I did this after I got obsessed with brioche after my last brioche project. And all in all, love the pattern. The pattern's great. The style's great so far. I will say I talked a lot about the brioche bliss jacket pattern and how it was a little confusing to follow and there were some weird things in it. But as a first time brioche knitter, that pattern really explained like increases, decreases really well in overall construction. And so as far as the brioche part of it goes, it did it really well in the brioche bliss jacket. Had this been my first brioche project, I would have been a little bit more confused, I think. And what one example is, it just said when you do increases, it just says increase, and then in the like abbreviations, it says how to do a brioche increase. But in the brioche bliss, it actually said brioche increase, and so like you knew. And so I think it's just something, if you knit a lot of stockinette, other projects that are not brioche knitting, I would just immediately think, I mean, I guess it doesn't say like right leaning or left leaning, and so you would have to like consider what one you're going to do, what type of increase you were going to do. But I liked in the brioche bliss that it like identified that you have to increase differently and you have to decrease differently. So that's one thing. The collar on this one is knit in 3mm needles, and it looks so neat, and it's a bigger gauge, and so I'm actually, wait, maybe this isn't 3s. It's on a smaller needle than you do the ribbing. And now I'm second guessing this, and I should have looked this up. Apologies. And the collar itself is amazing, and I'm excited because generally like collars look fine and then you block them and they go like this, and I'm like, oh my gosh, but I think this one has enough. I'm pretty sure it's 3mm needles, because this is why, because it might have been 3.5 though. I'll put it on the screen. I did bind it off tightly, and I remember like halfway through I was like, oh my gosh, I think this is too tight, I should loosen up. I probably should have gone back and loosened up. And the problem is, it fits over my head fine, and I haven't even blocked it yet, which again, I feel like it always stretches out a little bit. So I don't think I'm going to redo it, but if I block it and it feels too tight to put on every time, I probably will, because I do feel like I would maybe be at risk of not wearing it as much if it feels too tight. Now, when I put it on, it doesn't really feel too tight. It's just really, I know it's a little too tight. And honestly, if you stretch it, it doesn't even, I don't know. Maybe this is not an issue. Again, this is a me problem, not a pattern issue. I just finished the first sleeve, and you do decreases on either side, which was my first time doing that. And I really do like the look of how that decrease, the double decrease looks. And so I'm happy with that. Looks great. But it says to pick up I think it says 2 out of every 3 garter knots, and I had to pick up way less than that, like almost 1 for 2. And I don't know if I just measured poorly when I made the yoke, the front and the back, or if, yeah, I mean, that's probably the only option. And at that point it was too late to like go back and measure and see. And I don't think it actually like looks like I didn't pick up enough stitches when you go to it, except for the fact that you kind of have, I don't know. It doesn't look like the neatest pickup, but I couldn't get it any neater. And so we'll see how that blocks out. Again, this is an issue I always have with drop shoulder patterns. And then on the brioche, I think when you pick up stitches, it looks even a little messier. Including up at the top at that seam between the front and the back, I am going to end up sewing that up because I do not like how that looks at all. And maybe had I not been worried about having to not pick up so many stitches, I would have just like picked up an extra stitch in this section and then it would have been fine. So I don't know, this could be user error. It could just be, this is like an earlier petite knit pattern, and I do find like some of these really like intricate design features, I guess it's not that intricate, but some of these design features in her earlier patterns are not as well tested, I feel like, as the later ones. And so I one time saw a girl online making, she was like, okay, fine, everyone loves petite knit, I'm gonna make the hazel sweater, I think it is. The one that's like 2x2 rib. And I'm like, that's the one pattern of petite knit that I've seen, so I've never seen somebody like making that pattern. Please let me know if you've liked making it. It's really cute, but everyone says like the fit's not quite right. And it's like one of her first 3 patterns, I think. And so, I don't know. Could be that. So, I don't know. I'll end up doing some sewing on this. Just cast on that other sleeve. And so, we'll see. I am very excited I got to get my fall stitch markers out. So, we have my little ghost on this one. So, it's kind of a lot to say about the September sweater. I cannot wait to wear it. I still am not good at fixing brioche mistakes. But this has continued my love for brioche, and I'll definitely continue to knit some brioche projects here and there. So, even on the collar, see, there's like a hole right here. So, I don't know. I feel like I'm gonna be sewing up holes, and that's just not really something you should have to do. Sometimes, but all right. My other work in progress right now is the Lakes V-neck by Ozetta, and so it's actually the same construction except for the V-neck as the Shoreline, but stockinette. And I'm knitting this in double Sunday as well. So literally don't knit with double Sunday for so long, and then all of a sudden I have 2 projects with double Sunday. This one's also with the Sandnes Garn Tynn Silk Mohair. Both of them are in the color, I believe it's 3880. Yep. And so I love this brown, but I do have a problem. This yarn I purchased for a slipover, and then I decided not to make a slipover with it, and so I had to get more when I decided that this was going to be my final project. And of course it was like months later, and so I do not have the same dye lot. I don't know how well this is going to show up on camera, but this is kind of a different color than this. And I don't know, I feel like sometimes, like maybe blocking, maybe this is the one time I want color to bleed when I block, and so that it evens out a little bit, or maybe you won't really be able to tell. But I'm fearful because I have them all mixed in, and I'm kind of like, I'm just going to knit this and see what happens. But I'm worried that like at some point on the body, I have a line of like where I switched. And I have 2 different dye lots of Mohair and 2 different dye lots of the double Sunday. And so I don't know which one is causing the greater color discrepancy, but it is like, I can only see it if I really look. And so that's why I'm like, maybe this will be unnoticeable, like when it's finished, when it's blocked, but there could be a point where it gets worse. And so I think my backup plan is just going to be, I really like this color, but I wouldn't mind it actually just like a little bit of a deeper chocolatier brown. And so if I'm having issues with the colors after I make this, I'm going to just do my first dyeing venture, and I'm going to get brown dye and just try to dye it a little bit darker and even out that tone. So give me your hot takes on dyeing, give me your tips, just in case I end up having to dye this sweater. So, other than the color, I have followed this pattern to a T, haven't made any changes. I'm happy with it. I will probably the next time I run out of mohair, do the collar. I always like doing the collar early. It just gives me a better idea of like what it's looking like and then how it fits. So excited to do that. I have not made many V-neck garments that are not cardigans, and so excited to do that V-neck again. When I was looking for a pattern, I wanted a V-neck chunky, just like not fingering weight yarn, sweater that had a folded collar. And so that's how I ended up on this pattern. And so I'm excited for that fold. The last time I did, the only time I've done a V-neck collar, I messed up the decreases because I didn't quite understand it, and I ended up going back and I fixed it, and you can't tell, but it was not folded. So I'll be interested to see how that works, and that'll be a new thing for me. And then the only other thing on this, and I think I just got yarn to make a cardigan, and I'm not going to share it today because I like the flexibility to change what WIP I'm doing next, and I don't know which one will be next. But all this to say, I might make that project my first combination knitting project. And that's because my knits and my purls could not be more different of a size. Again, I don't know if this is gonna show up, but here, in person, I can see exactly where I go into the round, which is right about here. And it's so much looser here and it's so much tighter here. And I went down a full 0.5 millimeter size on my purls on this section. So there's really not that much more I can do to make my stockinette in flat more even. So I'll hold this up one more time because I don't know if you're going to be able to see it or not. But it is extremely obvious to me. Every time I make a project, I get to this point and I'm like, oh my gosh, this looks terrible. And I block it, and then honestly, you can't tell. And so I'm like, I don't know, maybe I'm overreacting on this project too. It's also like kind of scrunched up on these needles. And for all I know, maybe the color just changed in one of the yarns, and so it just looks different, you know? No, it's definitely just tighter. Basically the issue is I row out really bad in my purls, and so I've gone down a half size when I knit flat. So I think I'm going to try combination knitting. So if anybody has experience in that, or if it's worked for them, please let me know, because I don't really want to make a flat cardigan that I'm not happy with at the end of it. Well, a flat cardigan, of course, you just like knit back and forth in a cardigan. I don't want to make a stockinette cardigan that I'm not happy with because of this issue. And so again, give me your tips and tricks, please. I'm really worried about it, but I think, I don't know. Now I'm kind of like, should I take this out? But I don't think I'm going to take it out. Okay, I'm going to have to think about this. Sorry, having an existential crisis on camera over this Lakes V-neck. Other than that, again, the construction is the same as the Shoreline sweater, so happy with the pattern, all of that. Love Ozetta, can't wait to make more of her patterns. Those are my formal projects that I have on the needles, things I've made progress on that I'm talking about. I am still chipping away at the Cumulus blouse, tee, O-neck, but honestly, it's honestly just not very interesting right now, and I'm not very motivated to do it because I have a long way to go, and by the time I finish, I won't be wearing it for months. And so anyways, I'm chipping away on it, especially when I need like just something stockinette not to think about, but I'm not going to show it today. I am, as of filming this, I leave on a work trip tomorrow, and it's a very short trip. It's not very long, but I always bring a travel project, and my Cumulus tee is supposed to be the travel project, but again, I'm very unmotivated to make it right now, and this is a hobby, and so I fully believe, like, do the things that you like, this is a hobby, it's not that serious, and, you know, knit the colors that you like to knit. It doesn't matter if you knit neutrals, like, knit what you like to make and what you will wear. On the same note, like, if you need to put a project down because you're not enjoying it, then put it down. Like, you're not forced to make these things. So I'm still working on it, but it is going to the sideline. And so then I was like, okay, well, what am I going to bring on the plane? And I just shared my 2 WIPs, which are these chunky, pretty far along knits. And, you know, double Sunday skeins go so fast. And so I'm like, I would have to like try and guess how many skeins I would use, which is always kind of complicated. So anyways, I cast on, and I mean cast on literally, like, as that's it. Hope you like it. This is going to be the Brownstone beanie by Tori U. And I said in my knitting considerations video that I wanted to knit a beanie, and I have a little typical tag that I want to put on it, and the typical tag is from Tiffany over at Typical Bliss. And this is going to be the beanie for that, hopefully. So I'm going to make the beanie and then see. And so a beanie is a perfect travel project. And I am kind of somebody who prefers larger projects. I don't really like accessory knitting that much, but I do like having knit accessories. And so finding the time and the space to knit beanies, socks. I one time made a pair of socks, but I, at the beginning of this year, said I was going to knit a couple pairs of socks, and I have one pair that I made a mistake on and have to go back, and so it's kind of, yeah, I just kind of brought up a sore subject with myself. Again, it's a hobby. We don't have to take it that seriously. So I'm excited about this beanie. I'm excited about the construction of it, and you start with one strand as you do the brim, and then you go to 2 strands, and I think that's going to make it really nice to not have like 8 layers. Some of the Petite knit hats have like 8 layers at the bottom and then just 1 at the top. And so you'll see more progress after a trip or 2 where I bring this. So I feel like beanies I'm only ever able to bring on 1 trip because it's not going to be enough for the second trip. But this is a really short trip. My next trip I'm probably not going to have a lot of time. So who knows? Maybe this is a double trip hat. Other than that, thanks so much everyone for your comments and thoughts on yarn and yarn combinations. One, I kind of asked for 2 things in my last video. One was combinations that you would like, that you like for a Monday sweater, or that you'd like to see in a Monday sweater. And so definitely got some ideas there as I continue to make more Mondays. And then I also was talking about cheaper yarn alternatives. And then it was kind of odd timing because I talked about knitting for Olive, and then they were not shipping to the US like a couple days after that was posted, and then now they're back, thankfully. But there are tariffs on that, and I know tariffs are just like hitting a lot of yarn companies. And so I did end up purchasing Kelborn Woolen's Camper, and this is a yarn made in the US, and so it should not be affected by the tariffs. And a lot of people also just talked about this being a yarn they really like in the comments. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to get this to see how I like it, and it could be a different alternative. And I really do enjoy the color. I think it's called Autumn Harvest. And I was like, oh, perfect. I have this mohair that I could use with this, and this could be my combo. No. I do not like them together. On the website, this looked a little bit lighter. It's a little bit darker than I thought it would be, and so I thought that these would go together better, and so I don't like it. And I have a sweater's quantity of this mohair, and so it's a Tilia mohair. And so anyways, I eventually do need to find yarn to go with this, and this is my second time ordering yarn thinking I'm going to use this. Haven't. I have just 1 skein of this color though, and I think I one time tagged it onto an order to see if it worked with a different yarn, and it was something that I'm like, oh, one day I might want a mohair to go with this green yarn. I don't know. This is the thing. I don't stash, but I do have all these one-off skeins, and this is my issue. Mostly in fingering weight yarn, so it's not an issue. The mohair, this is kind of ridiculous. So I did this little swatch. And sorry, it's very tiny and I didn't block it. So you can see this mohair on this side and then the green on the other, how much of a difference that mohair makes for the color. It is so crazy and wild. I get that some people would probably be fine with this. I don't like when the core of the mohair like makes the lines so aggressively and variegates it so much. I much prefer it to kind of blend. And so I really like the green. I do not like that tannish color. So all that to say, this is not something I'm casting on right now, but one, I'll have to get more mohair because it's my only skein before I make it. And then also, I just have some other projects I'm more excited about. And so anyways, this will get eventually cast on, and I'm excited to make it. And I think it will be like a really fun, it's too bad I don't want to cast it on right now. It'd be a really fun fall garment. I haven't ordered any other yarn as far as the Mondays or the cheaper alternatives or anything, but a few people made a really good point in the comments that a lot of people get Knitting for Olive from a local yarn store or a US based yarn store website, and it is up a little bit because they have to make a profit on that. And if you order directly from Knitting for Olive, it's actually quite a bit cheaper than usually a local yarn store. And so this isn't just like support one or the other, but I think one of the reasons someone made the point, like I think that you think that Knitting for Olive is a pretty reasonable and cheaper, I don't think it's cheap, but a fairly priced wool yarn is because you probably order directly from Knitting for Olive. And that definitely is true. Where you get your yarn and where you're located in the world definitely makes a difference on these things. Prior to tariffs, Knitting for Olive increased their prices not that long ago, but it used to be about $7 for a skein of Merino. I think it's up to $7.60 US dollars. And the main alternative that people gave me was Knit Picks Palette, which is $5.50 a skein for about the same amount of yardage. And so that's about $150 difference between the skeins. And a Monday sweater, I usually need 5 skeins. And so the difference being less than $10 between those two does make it be like, hey, not that there's anything wrong with Knit Picks Palette, not that I want to use it, but it's not like a much cheaper alternative than Knitting for Olive. So just something to be thinking about, and where like, you know, price checking around. Obviously, when you're supporting locals, sometimes there's different things and prices there that are worth it, as well as like Knitting for Olive to me is worth it because I feel really good about their practices, especially for their silks and stuff. And so just something to take note, but thank you all so much for your recommendations. I'm excited to try some of the other ones that you guys listed, and I will eventually try Knit Picks Palette too because I actually have never used it, and so I'm excited to try that one day. But thank you guys so much for being here and for following along. It's just so great to interact with all of you and hear what people are knitting. So let me know what you're knitting in the comments, and I'll see you next time.